Hello. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
It's just the mute button. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Cool.
Aha! I managed to get video working again. I was having some problems yesterday, so because technology.
Because technology.
Because technology. Good to see everyone. This looks like more than a few of the cast of the what did they say in Casablanca?
Usual suspects.
Usual suspects.
Of course you would say that when I sign on.
Well, we're glad to have you. Hey, I'm speaking about myself as well. So, and it's the start of a beautiful friendship, is I believe how Casablanca ends.
Give it like one more minute and then we'll get started. All right. Well, welcome everyone to the February 8th Alpha Omega public meeting. As you can tell, my voice is a little bit hoarse today, but we're going to get through it. So, as usual, Q&A. Lots of questions. I think like 2/3 of the folks on the call are directly on the project. So, if we run out of questions, we can give everybody time back. If not, we can just chat.
Yeah, what is Alpha Omega?
Don't start with me. It's too early in the morning. So the first major change that we want to talk about was Michael Windsor is no longer at Google and is no longer in the same position that he was on Alpha Omega. So Bob Calloway, who's been well, Bob and Brian are both from Google. They've both been involved in OpenSSF for a long time. Bob is the appointed single person of contact for Google for Alpha Omega going forward. Brian's supporting him, so I feel good about this. I don't feel like it doesn't change the mission. It doesn't change the focus. We still have really smart people doing hopefully really good things. But just wanted to be transparent there. Alpha engagements. So we still have the same same 5 engagements that we talked about last month. We are looking at a couple more for, if I were to guess, I would say possibly by the end of March, we'd have something to announce. Similar in these, but we don't want to, talk about them until we're further along in the process. But that does actually raise an interesting point on, like, do we have the right funnel to consider the right projects? So right now, it's a combination of us reaching out to projects and projects reaching out to us. If there's, any of you on the call have thoughts on places in the ecosystem where investment would have outsized impact, like, throw them over to us. You open up, email would be easiest, but anyway, just get in contact with us and, give us the list, give us a pitch, give us whatever. But we definitely want to make sure that we're focused on the right things. And a lot of times, where I'm thinking is, like, we all know about, like, Node and Eclipse and Rust and Python. But in the idea of, like, libNebraska, like, are there fundamental core projects that everybody relies on that are never on, like, the top end list? And if so, and I'm thinking more than individual, like literally a libNebraska project, but like oh yeah, this ecosystem actually runs like all the hospitals in the world or whatever. George.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question, even though I can kind of confirm that this is a very interesting one. I was just wondering, like, you have these engagements, they're basically on foundation level. So I think all of them have potentially tons of different projects underneath. So I don't know if that is part of the updates that you host on GitHub. So sorry if I didn't read up on that before. But how do you pick individual engagements for one of a particular project for one engagement, like, for instance, in the Eclipse Foundation context?
Sure.
I'm just curious. And
yeah. So the reason, so Eclipse, they're at the beginning, they're all they're all very different from one another. Part of the reason for, like, for instance, for jQuery, one of the reasons for jQuery, like, beyond, like, it on the surface being a critical project and all that, was because it was different than the others. All of the others were foundation supported. I mean, Node is probably in a similar category as jQuery, but like Eclipse, one of the reasons we were interested in Eclipse was, because they cover 140 different projects, I think, if memory serves. So by investing essentially like one unit of investment, you could improve the security for a wide swath of projects, as opposed to saying, targeting this investment to, like, the Eclipse IDE or the C++ toolkit for Eclipse, or C Python specifically. Instead, it's to the Python Foundation, and because they were in a better position to know where that focus should be to have the most impact, we kind of, we work with them, but mostly we defer to them to have that insight and allocate that in that way. If there's a separate question, which is, why do we choose Eclipse, Rust, and Python and not Foundation A, B, and C? And that, part of it is the Critical Projects Working Group. We were kind of informed by the list that they have of the top 100. I don't want to say most. If you look at that list and look at the list that we, the list here on the screen, there's a big overlap. So they kind of make sense. Like, we aren't, I hope we're not choosing projects that don't matter. But there's a huge list of projects that really do matter. So could we have invested in, take out Rust and put it in another one? Sure, it would have been in a similar boat. And that's why I think that the goal for 2023 number one is to like continue making more investments. We don't want our portfolio to just be 5. We want it to be, I don't know, 50 or 25 or some number more than 5. But in order to scale that, and this comes down to like the strategy that we have, which is help these foundations build capacity themselves on an ongoing like budgetary basis. So we had an offsite last week and we were chatting about some of the ways that we could do this, and we talked about like, could we do matching funds? So instead of giving the full amount, we say we will give 75% of whatever you get elsewhere up to some capped amount, or something, just to kind of start putting a gentle pressure on these foundations to diversify their inbound fundraising for security. Because at the end of, I don't know, 2025, if we have 25 critical projects that every year their security depends on us writing them a check, I think we've failed the ecosystem. So I definitely don't want to be in that position where we wind up creating that hard dependency. I don't know if that answered your question. It was a little rambly, but
yeah, it did. Thanks a lot.
yeah. And there are updates on the I just merged a couple, but there are updates on the site here on under Alpha Omega. So I think we have ones from each of the 5 now, and a couple just as of this morning.
Michael, do you mind if I jump in here real quick?
Absolutely. I mean, no, I don't mind. But
Don't mind. I probably should rephrase that question. Okay. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think also in at least some of the discussions that we've already had, there's been an interest in, yes, do find and fix specific vulnerabilities. That's important. That's a good thing. But also, trying to help, make changes so that their own processes automatically detect, basically help them make changes so that future similar problems can't ever happen in the first place. I love what the airline industry does, where every time there's not just an accident, but something that is that could have, if other things had gone wrong, become an accident, step back and ask, what happened? Why? And we're not here to beat up people. We're here to figure out how we can change things to make that even less likely in the future. And if we all as a larger community do that, these problems are just going to slowly be squished out.
Yep, totally agree. I mean, I think the problem that a lot of these foundations or larger projects have in general, not just the foundations, is they're, and this is true for commercial companies too. They tend to be in kind of jumping from crisis to crisis. So a big vulnerability happens, it scramble, like first order businesses get the thing fixed. That like longer root cause analysis, let's steer the ship in a slightly different direction so that to obviate these things in the future. It's there's it's the I don't know if cobbler's son is the right and that, but it's like that is always second tier to either feature work, like actually doing the thing that you're in business to do, or responding to crises. And I think one of the things that I hope the funding through Alpha gives is some a little bit more breathing space, so that someone can and I think almost all of the engagements we have included specific bullets on learn about the security, let's say, gaps within the processes, and then work to change that and improve that. So in addition to just kind of making security releases and bug fixes and vulnerability detection and installing code scanners, it's like the look at it holistically and improve things over time. And I think Eclipse is the one that comes to mind in particular, that with a lot of what they've done with running scorecard, looking for I think they've already started on Salsa, things that they can do across their entire portfolio that like elevates the water level, or maybe lowers the water level. I don't know. So that was the major update that I had. I think the next slide is just Q&A. I mean, we're working on a lot of other things. So, you know, we have Yesenia and Jonathan that I'm sure could be happy to talk about what's going on with on the Omega side and vulnerability detection at scale. There's university outreach program that we've are working with the education, the EISIG on. Essentially, that we're continuing this kind of grand experiment, and some things are going to work great and some things aren't, and the quicker we learn, the better, and we can iterate and all of that. So is there anything anybody would like to talk about? Go for it, Randall.
I was sent to talk about what you guys wanted to do, or at what point get a kind of an idea of what Alpha Omega wants to do with the training of the tooling.
I'm sorry, I missed one word. What of the tooling?
The training, the education.
Training. Okay, so training on how to use how to use our tools, how to use tools in general, our tools.
Yes. I know that it was discussed, and I know that I don't know if it was discussed with me or Glenn, but I know at some point it was discussed that we would have education on that.
Yes, we absolutely need to do that. If Anna was on the call, I would ask her to like make sure that's highlighted on the Trello board. I mean, because so some of the tools are, well, let's see. So the analyzer is definitely usable to the point that a video demo and some better docs on how to use it would be helpful. We should absolutely do that. We should do that like really soon.
Actually, at the end of the call, also could we go off camera for a second? I wanted to share something.
Absolutely.
With the Alpha Omega team.
Yeah, of course.
So, because we can also integrate tooling. That was kind of why that's why it came up. But we can integrate tooling into our actual platform. Like we're doing that with Zap right now. So you'll be able to like do the actual vulnerabilities. We're also kind of expanding because we're doing new courses. So we have things like from a bug hunter's perspective and then from a developer's perspective. I know that we talked with the end user group about like an executive perspective and different perspectives there. So yeah.
Yep, totally makes sense. And we probably should publish that as part of a larger OpenSSF like training page or like thing like that. But yeah, we should absolutely do that.
All right, yeah, that's all I had.
Cool, thanks.
And then I have the other thing, the secret thing.
Yep. The secret thing.
If I can make a quick response to Randall.
Go for
Yes,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, first I agree. Training on tooling sounds great. Even if it's just a video, I mean, I think that would be, I'm always big on, small cost, big benefit stuff. So a short video showing, somebody who knows how to do it can be a big win. I'll add that, if you're an existing security researcher, a number of security researchers already have some tools that they're comfortable with. Awesome, if that's helpful. And those kinds of videos to help them understand and use new tools is really, really helpful also.
Just wait till the secret meeting, David, because there's a lot to do with tooling.
Well, there's always a lot to do, more generally. As soon as you find a topic, you find 1,000 things that are worth doing. But let me just add a quick plug in addition, though. For many software developers, they really don't know they struggle to use some of these tools, not because the tools are necessarily hard, but they don't really understand what the tools are trying to accomplish. They don't really understand what vulnerabilities are in general. And so in a lot of cases, what they need is not just here's how to use a tool, mechanically, or here's some tricks how to use the tool, but more broadly education on, hey, what is security? What are common kinds of problems and those sorts of things? And I hear that there are courses from the OpenSSF Secure Development Project. I hear about this thing called SKF. Randall, you may also have heard of it. I laugh. For those of you who don't know, I led development of the OpenSSF, and Randall leads on the it's at least a part of SKF project, and we work together. So I'm just pointing out that in many cases, it's not just education, the tools, it's the basics of security, and we can point off, thankfully, to existing materials.
And let me also add this for your guys' knowledge. So there's been a lot of talks, and this actually somewhat will have to do with the secret meeting later, the covert meeting. But basically now, SKF in a lot, so we've been talking about getting absorbed into LF, and talks are pretty advanced that I could talk about certain things. But SKF is really embracing the framework part of the F part of the SKF, because it's kind of turning into something like a ecosystem where we're going to offer a wide array of free courses, tooling, and all sorts of things. Like, it's going to be like a whole ecosystem, because essentially the fact that all of our courses are free will not fly. As
I think we lost your audio.
Come again?
Repeat. We lost your audio, I think.
Oh, sorry. That SKF is growing a lot because we're becoming more of a framework. So there's going to be more tools. There's like we've talked to Project Discovery about potentially doing stuff with SKF. I don't know if you guys know Project Discovery. Jonathan probably knows who they are. But stuff like that. So we're kind of turning in, and then we have, obviously, we're working on our own Kali Linux, which is the Hack OS, which we think is going to be a major marketing tool. So yeah, so we're working on a lot of really cool things. That is not just the platform, if you will.
Got it.
Randall, I can help you with the Omega training videos, because that's something I would like to do, is like have an entry point for new contributors, more on like the brand new, maybe college students or folks that are just entering the field.
Yep.
And like David mentioned, don't even know what security is. So I'll be happy to help work with you on that.
Absolutely. We're working on our first course for that. We call it Smashing the Web for Fun and Profit.
Nice.
Glenn came up with that title. He said it's an ode to an old course.
Good title.
Well, Smashing the Stack for Fun and Profit is a classic, and in fact, I teach it's at George Mason, and it's one of our required reading papers.
Yep.
Yep.
So we're going through all that, and then, as I said, so a lot of the secret meeting has to do with OWASP, and basically there are things happening at OWASP that where that tooling side of things might get a lot more interesting real fast, is all I'm saying. I'll say more in the secret meeting. But I thought that being Alpha and Omega, you guys would be interested, because part of this is, so I don't know how many of you in the call know Mark, but Mark has a lot to do with it. And Mark's trying to was trying to restructure OWASP, and things didn't go according to plan, put it that way. So that has turned into something else that we will discuss shortly.
Cool. Is there anything else we want to talk about on the public meeting? Awesome. Okay. So how do we do this? So I'm going to stop share, and then David, can you stop record?
I don't know. All right, so we have to be careful here. Yes, I can stop recording. However, all the rules involving OpenSSF are, still valid in terms of, antitrust and so on. Okay, so I'm going to stop the
Understood.
recording per request.